Maya Brooks knelt between rows of tomato plants in the hydroponics bay of Aurora 7 station and checked the nutrient levels with careful attention, because these plants represented 6 months of crossbreeding work, and she refused to let a single one wilt under her watch. The door hissed open behind her, but Maya kept her focus on the soil sensors until an unfamiliar voice spoke in halting English, with musical undertones that made every word sound like part of a song. "Can you help me understand why humans grow food in metal containers floating in space when planets exist everywhere?" Maya turned and nearly dropped her datapad because standing in the doorway was the most striking being she had ever seen, and the woman stood nearly 7 feet tall with skin that shimmered like mother of pearl and eyes that held 3 distinct colors swirling like galaxies. "Oh, you must be the Vescaran delegate, and welcome to my little garden in the stars." The alien woman stepped closer with movements that seemed to flow like water, and her long fingers reached toward a tomato plant but stopped just before touching, as though asking permission. "I am Zerani, and my government sent me to learn about human agricultural methods because our people struggle to understand why your species values dirt and seeds." So highly Maya laughed and gestured for Zerani to sit on the bench near the growing beds, and she settled beside her close enough to see the tiny luminescent patterns that danced across the alien woman's skin like living tattoos. "We value them because they connect us to our home, and every plant here carries DNA from Earth and reminds us where we came from, even when we are traveling between stars." Zerani tilted her head in a way that Maya would learn meant deep curiosity, and her fingers finally touched a tomato leaf with such gentleness that Maya felt something warm bloom in her chest. "On Vescara, we absorb nutrients from our sun through our skin, and we never understood the human need to consume other living things until I read your botanical reports, and now I think perhaps eating is another way of remembering." Maya found herself smiling wider than she had in months, because nobody on the station ever wanted to discuss the philosophy of farming, and they all treated her hydroponics bay like a grocery store rather than a living library. You get it, and most humans do not even get it anymore. Their first meeting stretched from minutes into hours, and Maya showed Zerani every plant in her collection while explaining their histories and uses, and Zerani listened with an intensity that made Maya feel like the most important scientist in the galaxy. The next day Zerani returned, and the day after that, and within a week their meetings became the highlight of Maya's routine, and she found herself thinking about the Vescaran woman during every quiet moment. Zerani brought holographic crystals that displayed her homeworld with its massive crystal forests that grew toward triple suns and cities that looked like they were carved from single pieces of rainbow glass, and Maya shared coffee, which made Zerani's skin flash bright orange in what Maya learned was surprise. "This liquid is bitter, but also makes me feel energized and happy, and is this a human drug?" Maya nearly choked on her own coffee from laughing, and she explained caffeine, while Zerani's skin shifted through colors that seemed to match her changing emotions. 2 weeks into their friendship, Maya brought chocolate, and Zerani's reaction was so dramatic that 3 station crew members came running to check if there was an emergency. "Your people have created edible happiness, and this is why humans will outlive every species in the galaxy, because you understand pleasure." Maya felt her cheeks warm at the way Zerani looked at her while saying that word, and she wondered if Vescarans experienced attraction the same way humans did. Captain Linda Ross stopped by the hydroponics bay one afternoon and found Maya teaching Zerani how to properly smell a rose, and the captain raised an eyebrow with a knowing smile that made Maya blush deeper. "You two have been spending a lot of time together, and the diplomatic corps is pleased that relations are so positive." After the captain left, Zerani asked what the eyebrow movement meant, and Maya tried to explain human facial expressions while wondering how to interpret the way Zerani's skin turned soft pink whenever they stood close together. Everything changed on day 19 when alarms rang through the station, and Captain Ross called an emergency assembly in the main conference room. A territorial dispute had erupted between human and Vescaran colonies over a mining-rich system, and both governments were recalling their people and dissolving diplomatic exchanges until the matter was resolved. Maya felt ice flood through her veins as she realized what that meant. Zerani found her in the hydroponics bay an hour later and sat beside her on their usual bench without speaking, and her skin had turned deep blue, which Maya had learned meant sadness. "We have 48 hours before my ship departs. and I do not want to leave. Maya took Zirani's hand without thinking, and was surprised by how warm it felt, and how the luminescent patterns seemed to pulse in rhythm with her own heartbeat. I do not want you to go, and I know we have only known each other a few weeks, but you have become the best part of my days. Zirani's skin shifted to violet and swirling gold, and she squeezed Maya's hand gently. On Veskara, when skin shows gold in the presence of another, it means the heart has chosen, and I did not think I could feel this for a human. But your passion and warmth have changed everything. I thought I knew. Maya felt tears forming because the universe seemed determined to separate them. Right? When she was beginning to understand what she felt. What if we could fix this, and what if the dispute is just another misunderstanding? Like all our early conversations, they spent the next 12 hours barely sleeping, and instead they researched the territorial dispute and read through diplomatic communications and treaty documents until their eyes burned. Maya discovered something in the original mining rights agreement, and she called Zirani over to look at the translation. This word in Veskaran was translated as exclusive rights, but does it not also mean shared access in certain contexts? Zirani's skin flashed bright white, which meant excitement, and she pulled up the Veskaran version of the document. Yes. And this entire dispute exists because translators used the wrong meaning, and both sides think the other is violating agreements when really, the original treaty allowed joint mining operations. They brought their findings to Captain Ross and Dr. Helen Kim, the station's xenobiologist, and within 6 hours had arranged a joint communication with both government representatives. Maya stood before the video screens feeling more nervous than she had ever felt in her life, and beside her, Zirani radiated calm confidence. With skin showing steady green, Maya explained the translation error using botanical metaphors about how the same plant could have different names in different languages but remained the same living thing. And Zirani supported each point with cultural context from Veskaran history. The human representative was Ambassador George Wright, and he listened with growing interest while the Veskaran high speaker Talvanis seemed to shimmer with colors that Zirani whispered meant approval. Your partnership demonstrates the value of cultural exchange, and perhaps we have been too quick to assume conflict when collaboration was always possible. High Speaker Talvanis agreed and suggested forming a joint committee to review all existing treaties for similar translation issues, and Wright immediately accepted. After the call ended, Captain Ross smiled at both of them with obvious pride. You two just prevented a war, and I think you have earned some celebration time. Maya and Zirani walked back to the hydroponics bay hand in hand and sat among the plants that had brought them together. My family on Veskara sent a message, and they want to meet you because I may have mentioned you in every communication. Maya laughed and leaned against Zirani's shoulder, enjoying the warmth and the gentle pulse of light under her skin. My parents sent me a message too, and they said they already like you based on how happy I sound in my letters. Zirani's skin bloomed with gold and pink and violet all swirling together like a sunset. The Veskaran Council has asked me to stay on Aurora 7 as permanent cultural liaison, and I said yes before they finished asking. Maya felt joy burst through her chest like flowers opening toward the sun. The botanical director offered me a research grant to develop crops for Veskaran environments, and I get to visit your homeworld for 6 months. They sat in comfortable silence while around them plants grew quietly toward artificial sunlight, and Maya thought about how she had spent years trying to connect humans to Earth through agriculture, but had never expected to find connection with someone from another world entirely. Zirani turned, and her 3-colored eyes met Maya's with an intensity that made time seem to stop. On my world, we have a saying that translates roughly to "the heart knows no distance," and I did not understand it until now. Maya kissed her then and discovered that Zirani's lips were warm and tasted faintly of starlight and chocolate. Around them, the tomato plants continued growing and the roses kept blooming, and somewhere in the vast darkness of space, 2 governments worked on building bridges instead of walls.